Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. Today we're going to be talking about the weekend results that just occurred. We had the number one team in the country lose. We had a bunch of other huge matchups that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to discuss the rankings that followed. So we're going to talk about our rankings. We're going to talk about the AP poll rankings. We're also going to talk about some coaches that are on the hot seat right now. So some of these rankings or some of these, rankings plus results kind of really led me into some teams or some coaches that have kind of cooled down on the hot seat, some teams that are flaming hot right now. And then to close out the show, we will just talk about the upcoming week of hoops that we have. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because, quite frankly, it's a pretty slow week, unfortunately. One of the slower weeks that we're going to find in college basketball this season. And then, of course, in the middle of the show, we are going to also discuss the remaining undefeated teams because there's only a select few. In fact, there's only 8. So we'll talk about that real quick and just who might be, your last remaining undefeated team. So we're going to start off with the weekend results. But before we do, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Alrighty, let's dive right into it. And let's go back to Friday real quick and just, because there's a couple games that we want to talk about here, starting with number 11 Kentucky and number 11 Gonzaga and number 18 Kentucky playing in Nashville, where Gonzaga just throttled them 94-59. Graham Ike was unstoppable in this one for Gonzaga. 28 points, 10 rebounds. This Gonzaga team can beat anyone in the country. I know they got beat by Michigan badly, but that was just a 1 in a million kind of performance, in my opinion, for Michigan. I'm not saying Michigan's not better. I think Michigan's awesome. And in fact, they're my number one team. A little sneak preview for our rankings, but Gonzaga is also awesome. They can beat anyone. The story is definitely Kentucky, though. They're 5-4 to start the season, went 16 of 60 from the field in this one. Yeah, that's not very good. It took them forever to get their first field goal in the game, 7 of 34 from deep. The team can't shoot, quite frankly. I saw someone say, I have no idea where I saw it, but if Colin Chandler is taking as many shots for Kentucky as he's taking, it's a little bit of a problem. And I kind of agree with that. He's not a guy who can be a, SEC player of the year kind of contender where he's taken this many shots, but the team just can't shoot. And he's a guy who can shoot. He's a good athlete, but yeah, Kentucky's in serious trouble here. Another team in serious trouble is Cincinnati, who loses to Xavier in the crosstown shootout. Xavier gets them 79-74. Cincinnati might be the worst coach team in power. I mean, they're not the worst coach team, but like the most just high expectations the past 2 seasons, and they just don't perform it. And I blame 100% of the coaching in this one. Trey Carroll for Xavier was the guy. 30 points and 7 rebounds in this one. He had an iconic interview post game. This game was on TNT, so it was kind of cool to see the crosstown shootout getting some big love because it is a tremendous matchup. The environment was awesome. Trey Carroll, a 6'7", 6'8", kind of just small ball 5. He doesn't really he shoots some threes and he can knock them down, but plays a lot down low. Was kind of getting his just that little post right hook for Xavier in this one. That's concerning for Cincinnati. Your strength is supposed to be your defense down low. You brought in Mustafa Cham, you got Baba Miller, and you can't stop Trey Carroll down low. Let's scheme a little bit. Let's start to play a little bit of a zone. This Cincinnati team is so disappointing every year. Let's just say Wes Miller is going to be on our hot seat meter, and let's just say it's not going to be looking too good for Wes Miller. I think Cincinnati fans have all but moved on. But shout out to Xavier. Shout out to Richard Pitino. This team does not have a bunch of talent, and to go out and win this game in year 1 under him, and they're getting better and better. So good for Xavier. TCU loses to Notre Dame 87-85 in overtime. This is pretty much the only good news Notre Dame got this weekend after being left out of the college football playoff. But TCU is a team who could be towards the bubble. In fact, after that loss to New Orleans on opening night, they've been really good. Notre Dame has actually been doing better as of late. We talked about how they can never really win the big game. This is a pretty good one here. We'll see if Notre Dame can itch their way towards the bubble, and then UAB beat Drake pretty much just to fill out another graphic spot, understandably. So let's move on and talk about Saturday, and let's start with the big one, where number 1 Purdue loses at home to Iowa State 81-58. The game wasn't close. The game, it was close at halftime, and then the second half, it was all Iowa State. Milan Momcilovic had 20 points in this one. Tamin Lipsey had 8 assists. Returning from his injury, Torre, who has kind of stepped in for Tamin Lipsey, has also been really good. Purdue kind of shut down Josh Jefferson, who is just awesome, by the way. He is like an eye test king. He's so big and so fast and just plays the right way. He was fine. He had 11 points, but didn't take a bunch of shots. I do think that this big 3 can compete with just about anyone in the country. Add Torre, add Nate Heisey. and Buchanan, who's the transfer. Iowa State is legit. They are for real. When Taman Lipsey gets back to fully healthy, we'll see what this team's ceiling can be, because this team is awesome. For Purdue, they couldn't score the ball. They could not score on this Iowa State defense. Iowa State just frustrated the hell out of them. Braden Smith was their leading scorer, but they only had 3 players in double figures. It was a rough game for Purdue. It's kind of cool to see these like really well-coached teams, like Kelvin Sampson last year talked about in the Players Era Festival, how he kind of wanted to lose, which is so strange to say. He wanted this team to face his Houston team last year to face adversity, continue to grow and get better. And Matt Painter kind of said the same thing in this in his post-game presser here. So well, curious to see, because I think this Purdue team is still can beat anyone in the country, but Iowa State just got them by a lot in this particular Saturday game. Also on Saturday, in fact, these games were playing at the same time, so hopefully you had that split screen going up. Number 4, Duke went to Breslin and beat number 7, Michigan State 66-60. Cam Boozer continues to be awesome and continues to be the favorite to win the Player of the Year award. 18 points, 15 rebounds in this one. It was kind of an ugly game the entire way. Michigan State just couldn't get enough on the offensive end. It was kind of just, like I said, an ugly, just really physical game, as you're going to expect with Michigan State. Carson Cooper was their best player in this one, 16 points, 16 rebounds. Jeremy Fears had 13 assists. It's really fun to watch Jeremy Fears Tom Izzo just put Jeremy Fears in this pick and roll where it's like, dude, we're going to give you a little bit of space and have some cutters and just find them, because he's the best passer in college basketball, him or Braden Smith. 2 of the best passers in college basketball. In fact, Fears is leading the country in assists right now, so you can argue it is him at this point in the season. It's just they just didn't have enough shooting in this one, quite frankly, which was, our big concern coming into the season was, first off, throw away all our preseason expectations with Michigan State. I think I had them like around the 25 area, as did the AP poll, but it's Tom Izzo, and he just has that identity of just gritty ball with these big men. Carson Cooper's made a huge jump. Jackson Kohler's made a huge jump. Cohen Carr's even made a huge jump, and Jeremy Fears is awesome. They're just lacking a little bit of shooting. They just need one shooter. If they just had one shooter, this team would be like maybe top 2, top 3 in the country right now. Obviously, there's no harm in losing to Duke with Cam Boozer, who's been absolutely awesome. But Duke continues to just dominate at the end of games. Duke is, that was the big concern last year with Cooper Flagg. Couldn't really close out any games. That has not been the case this year. Late in the game, they have been as dominant as anyone in the entire country. So great win for Duke. They're the first team to 10 wins this season. Michigan State drops to 8-1, still looking like a top couple seed in March Madness. All right, let's pull up the graphic of the rest of the results. We talked about Iowa State, Purdue, Duke, Michigan State. Number 14, Illinois, got the better of number 13, Tennessee. Tennessee has now lost 3 in a row. Illinois is really good. Keaton Wagler was kind of a surprise in this one. 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4 threes. Tomislava Visic is also getting much healthier. Kylan Boswell's been awesome. This Illinois team ceiling is really high. Tennessee just isn't getting enough outside of Jacoby Gillespie. Nate Ament was not awesome in this game. Gillespie was their only player in double figures. Tennessee's got some things to figure out. They just don't have as many options as they've had the past couple seasons. Number 6, Louisville took down number 22, Indiana. I know the final score is 87-78. The game was not this close. It was pretty much a blowout the entire way. However, when's the last time Indiana fans lost a game in Indianapolis to a team that's, similar levels? I think Louisville's better, but similar levels, both ranked teams. And Indiana fans are still on top of the world after beating Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Let's talk basketball first. Ryan Conwell, 21 points in this one for Louisville. He's awesome. Michael Brown is awesome. Isaac McNeely is starting to shoot the rock even better. But Indiana, like I said, they're just as happy. A huge win against the Buckeyes. Kurt Signetti, a just incredible coaching talent. My goodness. What can you say about him? And then the quarterback with the post-game interview was definitely a lot of fun. So Indiana fans, they're feeling perfectly fine. But this Indiana basketball team will I'm going to wait a little bit on them, because I've ranked them a little bit higher, because I saw some potential in the front court, which was my big concern. However, once they've started playing some better competition, it hasn't been looking too well. So I think they're going to be fine. I think if I had to pick right now, I'd say they're in an 8-9 matchup. And I think that's a success for Indiana in year 1 under Darian DeVries. All right, next up, number 2, Arizona dominates Auburn 97-68. Arizona 41 of 67 from the field. My God. Arizona does not shoot threes. They shot 15 threes in this one, and that's kind of a lot for their standards. This team just dominates you at the rim. Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, and Koa Pete combined for 50 points, 21 of 33 from the field. Pretty much everyone that played in this game had a tremendous shooting percentage. I continue to love Mo Krivas. I think he's awesome and one of the most underrated players in the country. This team's awesome. Yeah, what else can you say about him? A team that doesn't shoot threes is now ranked number 1 in the country. When we'll talk about them a little bit more in the AP poll. For Auburn, it was all Tahad Pettiford, had 30 points, his best game maybe ever for Auburn. 5 and 9 from 3. He was really good, but just not even close to a match for this Arizona team, who's kind of looking like a juggernaut. Ole Miss loses to St. John's 63-58. This game was not this close, but St. John's did end up pulling away with a 5-point victory here, as you would kind of expect. Wisconsin drilled Marquette. Marquette is awful. This team is very bad. It's like you kind of want them just one game to come out and really like get off to an early lead, even if it's like 14-9 or something. But this was just Wisconsin from start to finish. Oklahoma got drilled by Arizona State. Bobby Hurley seems to have a pretty good team here. Their guards are really fun. Mo Odom is really fun. This was a blowout, 86-70. We've seen Arizona State teams be really good to start off the season, then really fade as of late. We'll see if that's the case this season. I did not put Bobby Hurley on the hot seat meter. I'm not saying he's not on the hot seat. I do think he is. However, I don't know what to do with him. I didn't know how to describe it. He's kind of like, if I had to bet one guy coming into the season that he would not be coaching next season, it would have been Bobby Hurley, but he's done pretty well this season. So we'll see. Maybe that's raising the bar a little bit and like thinking maybe they got to make the NCAA tournament, but I don't know. Good win here and a good start for this Arizona State team. Baylor loses at Memphis 78-71. Memphis picks up a much needed victory here. Baylor, just like Indiana, I'm calling my shot right now. We're going to see a Baylor versus Indiana 8-9 matchup. I think both of these teams just like scream 8 or 9 seed to me. Baylor just doesn't have any rim presence whatsoever, but they can really score the ball. But Memphis gets them here. UCLA beats Oregon 74-63. Oregon doesn't look like they're going to be anywhere near the NCAA tournament. UCLA, good win here. Seton Hall beats Kansas State. Seton Hall, really, really good. They've already surpassed their win total from last season. 78-67. Kansas State is in big trouble. They have a lot of NIL money and have not performed the past 2 seasons. So we're going to talk about Jerome Tang, Kansas State here in a little bit. Boise State beats Butler. Boise State 77, Butler 68. This game was played at Hinkle. Butler has been off to a great start, but Boise State, they lost that opening night game to Hawaii Pacific since then, have been pretty decent. So big win there for Boise State. Colorado does lose to Colorado State. This was Colorado's first loss of the season. Colorado State 91-86. Good environment there. Love that rivalry game. Washington goes to number 24 USC and beats them 84-76. It was a huge comeback. They were down big to start the game and then fights all the way back and picks up a win. Good win for and a much needed win for Danny Sprinkle's squad there, who should be towards the bubble this season. Ohio State wins at Northwestern. This was a big one, 86-82. Both teams maybe bubble-ish. Ohio State definitely on the right side of the bubble right now. I know it's only December, but as of now, like these are games that you have to win, and Ohio State did get the job done. Iowa drills Maryland 83-64. Maryland is awful. I did not expect this from this Maryland team. I thought they were going to be sneaky good. They're awful. Iowa, Ben McCollum, what do you expect? Virginia drills Dayton. This was also a game I expected to be close, and Virginia led big in the second half, ended up winning by 13. Virginia, really good. And then Houston, kind of rebounds after some close games to start the season to, beat up on Luke Lauk's Florida State team, win by 15. All right, let's talk about Sunday briefly before talking about our rankings after all these results. The Border War, number 21, Kansas beats Missouri 80-60. Darren Peterson did return. He had 17 points in only 23 minutes. Trey White has been awesome. The Illinois transfer, 20 points, 13 rebounds. We talked on a previous show that we kind of talked about it being just like, is there going to be anyone else other than this big two between Darren Peterson and Flory Badunga? Trey White has stepped up. He's been absolutely awesome. Melvin Council's also been better than I expected. So Kansas has some pieces. This team is a sneaky, it's weird to say Kansas being like a sneaky Final Four team, but they've got a lot of, they're better than a lot of people were going to expect. Creighton is in real bad shape. They lose a rivalry game to Nebraska 71-50. Nebraska's still undefeated, off to a really good start. Creighton is just no good this season. North Carolina beats Georgetown 81-61. Just every show when we do this little, if you're watching on YouTube, this little bar at the bottom talking about stats, Caleb Wilson and Henry Vasar are on here every single time, and it's their combined stats because they're so similar every game, and they're awesome. 38 points, 29 rebounds combined in this one for those two. Those two plus Michigan's front court, the two best front courts in the country, in my opinion, for Georgetown. Really, really struggling. Hofstra goes to Pitt and wins 80-73. This is the second bye-game Pitt has lost. They lost to Quinnipiac. Now lose to Hofstra. Jeff Capel, he's burning hot right now on the hot seat. We'll talk about him in a little bit here. Number 19, Texas Tech took down LSU 82-58. LSU was undefeated coming in this game. If you listened to us last podcast, I said LSU's frauds. They were like 20th at Ken Pom. Yeah, they're not 20th. They are fraudulent. And Texas Tech kind of showed them in this one. Christian Anderson was awesome, had 27 points, 8 assists in this game. St. Mary's beats Davidson. No real surprise there. Texas A&M and SMU went to overtime. Then SMU drilled them in overtime. When you see a 13-point difference in overtime, SMU wins 93-80. UNLV wins at Stanford. Kyle Smith, come on, you're getting close to breaking through for Stanford, a team with not a lot of talent, but for those who listen, I love Kyle Smith. He's a tremendous basketball coach, but you can't lose to UNLV. UNLV is like the most up and down basketball team this season. They do have talent, but when their San Francisco wins at Mississippi State also is awful. They might be the worst team in the SEC. Them and South Carolina are going to be battling. Then TCU rebounds after their defeat against Notre Dame and wins at North Texas. All right, let's lead this as a segue into our rankings. We're going to do our rankings before the AP poll rankings, because these rankings are better. Come on now. Number one, I have Michigan. I think Michigan's the best team in the country right now. I'm sure I'm sounding like a broken record because I've said it a million times, but they're number one defense at Ken Pom right now. They're the number one ranked defense. Dusty May's not like known as a defensive coach, not bad, but he's an offensive minded guy. And if you have the number one ranked defense, you cannot score against this team at the rim with Morris Johnson and Daymara and Yaxel Lendeboard manning the middle down low. You can't score on this team at the rim. Their defense is spectacular. That's scary. That's why I have them as number one. Number two, I have Arizona. If you want to put Arizona number one, they're number one in the AP poll. Perfectly fine with it. They look awesome. They beat Auburn by almost 30. They're tremendous. Duke at number three, first team to 10-0 to start the season. No surprise there. Iowa State's at number four. No surprise there after winning at Purdue. They look awesome. UConn at number five. This team is still, to this day, going to be my pick to win the national champion. The favorite is Michigan, as it should be. They've been the best team and look like the part of this isn't a team you want to run into in March. I just trust the Dan Hurley development, and once UConn's fully healthy, as long as they don't match up against Michigan, just because Michigan's size is, but UConn's got size as well. But they do tend to play Alex Caravan towards the, he can play the three, but mostly plays the four. If he's having to guard Morris Johnson, this Michigan team is a matchup nightmare. And number six, I have Gonzaga. I'm higher on them than most people. In fact, where'd they end up in the AP poll? They ended up 8th, so I'm just a little bit higher on them. I think they're awesome. Still have Purdue at number 7 with, suffering such a home loss. They dropped 6 spots. That might be a little bit too harsh. But I got them at number 7. I got Louisville at number 8. Louisville dropped down a lot in the AP poll this week. We'll talk about them here in a second. But I still like this Louisville team. They went and they dominated Indiana. Louisville was just better at Indiana's game than Indiana was. Both teams not going to really dominate you at the rim, but both teams can really shoot the light out. I love the addition of Frew. So now Frew has really made a big, he's been a big part for this Louisville team. So they have some front court options as well. Number 9, Michigan State. No harm when losing to Duke. Duke's awesome. Michigan State also awesome. I have Alabama at number 10. They're a little lower in the AP poll. This team can beat anyone, and they look awesome. They have a legit, player of the year, first team All-American in LeBaron Philon on their team. I have North Carolina at 11, which is much higher than the AP poll has them. The AP poll has them at 14, but I just buy into this front court. This front court's awesome. They dominate you. They're a matchup nightmare. Number 12, I got BYU, and then 13, I do have Houston. I have Houston lower than most people. It's just kind of like they're 10th at Ken Pom for a little bit of clarity there, and they're 7th in the AP poll, but 10th at Ken Pom. So the computers, they're always the most loved computer team that there is, and they're even 10th at Ken Pom right now. They started the season first. They haven't beaten anyone. They beat Auburn, who's 29th in the country at Ken Pom, and then they haven't beat anyone else inside the top 60. Their next best win is Notre Dame. I'm not saying they can't get to the next level. I think they're great, but right now, I don't see any reason to have them, top 10. I think 13th is kind of fair. This is lower than I expected to have them, but they just haven't really shown anything too awesome, in my opinion. In fact, that game against Florida State, they were actually 17-point favorites at Ken Pom and only won by 15. I know we're splitting hairs there, but they just haven't really lived up to that expectation yet. So we'll see. They're going to get just much better as the season progresses. Next up, I got Illinois at number 14. This is like maybe the deepest top 15 I've ever seen, because like Illinois could be a national championship threat. In my opinion, this team, like in any other year, would probably be like a top 10 team. However, this top 15 is awesome right now. Maybe that's just start of season, maybe biasy, I guess. But Illinois looks really good. They can beat anyone. Vanderbilt, we haven't even talked about Vanderbilt. They're 15th. They're 9-0 on the season. In fact, they're 8th at Ken Pom. So it's like, I got them at 15, but yeah, we'll see about this Vanderbilt team, what their complete ceiling can be. I got Kansas at 16. Kansas has looked awesome. When Darren Peterson is playing, even without Darren Peterson, they've looked fine. Losses came to North Carolina, Duke, and UConn. So 3 blue blood programs. Outside of that, they look fine. I got Arkansas up next at 17. Just we'll see, because this team's got all the talent in the world, but kind of shaky to start, and now finally picked up some, that big win against Louisville. Florida at 18, the best 5-3 team you'll pretty much find. They're 14th at Ken Pom, so still ranked fairly high there. Up next, I do have St. John's, even with 3 losses, 3 good losses, I guess. We'll say they're 5-3 to start the season. Texas Tech up next at number 20. Felt optimistic after that game last night against LSU. This team is really good still, in my opinion. They've got off to a really slow start, especially after getting drilled by Purdue, but this team's going to get better. Grant McCaslin, one of the best coaches in the country. Got Virginia at 21. Virginia is not ranked in the AP poll, I believe. No, they are. They're 24th. They are now ranked in the AP poll. I think Virginia is just a kind of a sleeper to be a 7 seed that beats like a 2 seed. That's kind of my prediction right now. Maybe a 6 seed, maybe can even keep climbing. We'll see. But I really like this Virginia team. They're up to 21st at Ken Pom as well. Tennessee at 22 after 3 losses. Maybe I didn't drop them far enough, but I do think Tennessee still has a little bit of just a very high floor. St. Mary's up next. St. Mary's never does anything wrong under Randy Bennett. They're awesome. I did move Wisconsin back into the top 25. I think this team I still think they're good. I was really high on them in the offseason. I thought this team could be like a top 20 team come end of the season, top 4 seed-ish, but haven't really picked up the huge win yet. They just have been solid. So we'll see on them. UCLA at 25 back up here. USC drops down after their loss. Auburn still just kind of hanging around this 25 to 30 range for me, in my opinion. Nebraska, not really sure what to do with. I got them at 28. They're undefeated. They haven't lost. They're ranked in this week's AP poll. Iowa at 29, and then Clemson, the last team, at 30. I looked at it way too long between Clemson and Seton Hall. Seton Hall's been really good, but haven't played the elite level competition yet. So we'll see about Seton Hall, and then Oklahoma State, Indiana, Villanova, Georgia as my next up. All right, let's just talk about the AP poll here real quick. I will pull up the graphic here. It's not a pretty graphic. It's just labeled. So like we said, Arizona's number 1, Michigan's 2, Duke's 3, Iowa State 4, UConn 5, as I have it, except Michigan and Arizona flipped. Purdue's at 6, Houston 7, Gonzaga 8, Michigan State 9, BYU 10, Louisville 11, Alabama 12. The top 12 means something in the Week 6 AP poll. For more of that, go check out our last video that actually we just posted, but this will be released on Tuesday, and go check out the Monday video. It's kind of a cool little stat for the top 12 there. 13 Illinois, 14 North Carolina, 15 Vanderbilt, 16 Texas Tech. I love how the AP poll still high on Texas Tech, because I think this team still has Final Four potential. Arkansas at 17, Florida at 18, Kansas 19, Tennessee 20, Auburn 21, St. John's 22. And how about these last 3? Nebraska, Virginia, and UCLA used to be in rank, but Nebraska and Virginia, pretty cool to see them ranked for this upcoming week. So speaking of Nebraska, let's talk about the remaining unbeaten teams. We'll talk about who might be the last remaining unbeaten team. Michigan looks awesome. They might not lose another game until I believe. Let me pull up their schedule here just to double check this. But you get Villanova at home. They're favored by 15 in that game. My God, you get Maryland, who hasn't been good. LaSalle, McNeese is a mid-major. You get USC at home, and then you get Penn State away, who you should beat. Then you get Wisconsin at home, Washington, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, Nebraska. You're probably going to drop one of these, but your next game that you're actually like a single digit spread going to that you're going to have a single digit spread is actually against Michigan State at Michigan State on January 30th. So this team could be undefeated come January 30th. That would be absolutely crazy. They're number 1 at KenPom. The number 2 team at KenPom is Iowa State, who is also undefeated and 9-0 to start the season. They get Iowa at home. They should beat, and then they play 3 teams outside of the top 260. Then you get West Virginia, and then you go at Baylor. So maybe that one. And then the big one will be January 13th at Kansas. So that could be, suffering your first loss in that one. So these 2 teams might go undefeated for a little while here. Next up is Duke, who is 10-0 to start the season. They should kind of run through the ACC, maybe in my opinion. However, they do get Texas Tech on the 20th on a neutral floor. That could be a sneaky one. And then you go to Louisville on January 6th. So that's definitely another one to keep your eye on there. Arizona is, we should mention, Duke is 4th at KenPom. Michigan's 1, Iowa State 2, Duke 4, Arizona 5. So, 4 of these teams, or 4 of these 5 top 5 in KenPom are remaining unbeaten. The 3rd ranked team is Gonzaga, for those wondering. Arizona has looked kind of invincible. However, they do play a game on the 13th this weekend, a semi-away game against Alabama. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on there. That could be an incredibly high-scoring and completely opposites game. Alabama hucks up a million threes. Arizona doesn't shoot any threes. So wait and see on that. Vanderbilt is number 8 at KenPom. They have a big one at Memphis on the 17th. They also play at Wake Forest on the 21st. And then they will have a home game on January 7th against Alabama. So honestly, would probably not bet Vanderbilt being the last undefeated team. Oklahoma State still undefeated and kind of just flying under the radar. They're 49th at KenPom right now, so not ranked too incredibly high. They don't have any real good wins. They beat Texas A&M and Northwestern. They get Oklahoma in that rivalry game on a neutral site on Saturday. So Saturday is going to be a big day. And then other than that, they will play at Texas Tech on January 3rd. Would not expect them to win that game, so I wouldn't expect them to be the last remaining unbeaten. Nebraska is ranked 42nd at KenPom right now. They're off to a 9-0 start on the season. They get a home game against Wisconsin this week, and then they go to Illinois. Would not expect them to win both of those games. Then how about Miami of Ohio, the one mid-major to talk about on here, out of the MAC, coached by Travis Steele, formerly at Xavier. They got a good chance of winning quite a few games come this next month in December. They play UNC Asheville, Eastern Kentucky, games they should win. However, they are both away in that one. Then they play at Wright State, which is real close to Miami. So sort of a little rivalry game there. Then you play at Ball State, at Bowling Green, who's been good, and then home against Akron. So I would expect them to lose the game against either Wright State, Bowling Green, or Akron. So wouldn't expect them to be the last remaining unbeaten. I think your best bet is Michigan, and they've been the best team in the country. They've seemed a little bit invincible right now. That would be my pick to be your last remaining unbeaten team. Alrighty, next up, we are going to talk coaches on the hot seat. So it's a little bit of a longer podcast, but we want to display some of these coaches that have cooled down, have heated up. We'll talk about them after a quick ad break. We'll be right back. For those who don't know, I have a severe addiction to finding the best deals on Amazon, specifically college gear. It is my go-to for the holiday season, whether it is hoodies, long sleeves, or even t-shirts. I decided to put all these great deals that I personally find on my Amazon storefront. For the bracket science fans that don't want to spend a lot on college gear, this is the place for you. Take a look at our brand new storefront. The link is in the description. Even hit the follow button on there so you don't miss a great deal on the best. Alrighty, let's talk coaches on the hot seat. These are in no particular order, and there's many other coaches that are on the hot seat. I kept it to strictly Power Conference and just kind of ones that I do have an opinion on, quite frankly. So Pitt, Jeff Capel, he's definitely hot right now. His meter is pretty hot after losing 2 bye games. Pitt basketball is not what it obviously was under Jamie Dixon. I know they maybe should have gotten in the tournament a couple of years ago, but Jeff Capel just has not lived up to expectations at Pitt. Maybe he'll kind of go back to Duke and be an assistant coach under John Shire, part of the brotherhood there. Jake Diebler at Ohio State. I'd say he's steady right now. Don't have a huge opinion on it. They have, he lost the game to, he did lose at Pitt. So it might seem a little bit like, well, if Jeff Capel's on the hot seat and he's Jake Diebler's losing a game there. It was on a buzzer beater, and outside of that, they've been okay. They won that game at Northwestern. They won a game at home against Notre Dame, which quite frankly might have kept this a little bit more steady. So I have it a little bit more hot than not hot, but we'll see what they do in Big Ten play. That's going to be the big thing. They're currently 36th at KenPom right now, which they're sort of, on the bubble as we'd say right now for this Ohio State team. Red Autry at Syracuse. I have it at warm, just because he was one of the guys who came in with a very hot seat expectation season, one of the faces of the hot seat. They're 5-3 on the season. They're 63rd at KenPom. Still not what Syracuse should be. They did just win a game at home against Tennessee, the biggest win for Red Autry, but they did go 0-3 in the Players Era Festival, and then haven't beaten a top 200 team outside of that. So they got 5 games in a row against bad opponents, quite frankly, that they should all at home. They should win all of them. Should be 10-3 going into the ACC play. Then it's probably going to depend on their ACC outcome. Next up, Jerome Tang. I have it as hot, unfortunately. And I say that because I really like Jerome Tang. This is a guy who, if you were to give me just a choice to go have a beer with one college coach and who I would just have the best time with, I think it's Jerome Tang. I really like his interview presence. He just seems like a really, good guy. But they're 5-4 on the season. They're projected second to last in the Big 12. They're projected to go 6-12 in the Big 12. They're 82nd at KenPom. They've lost 4 in a row, lost 2 home games in a row to Seton Hall, who's been good, but then you lose at home to Bowling Green. They got drilled at Indiana. They lost a neutral site game to Nebraska. They picked up some wins at the beginning of the year or just one win, I guess, against Mississippi State that were like, oh, maybe this team's going to be good. Turns out Mississippi State just sucks. They did beat Cal and Tulsa, but unfortunately, this Kansas State team is it's just the NIL aspect there. They have so much money and they're not winning, and unfortunately, they're going to get frustrated. So I do have him as hot. Next up, Kim English from Providence, very warm. I think, quite frankly, I hate rooting against coaches and they make a lot of money, so you can have a little leeway there, but this just isn't working, in my opinion. I don't think it's there. They have one top 100 win, and it's against Penn State, who's 94th. They got drilled by Wisconsin. They got drilled by Florida. They got beat at Colorado. They lost to Virginia Tech, a game that they should have won. It's just not working. Providence fans expect more than this. I don't think he's a very schematically very good coach. I think his seat is very warm, and Providence fans are getting frustrated because Providence has a lot of talent this year, as they do. They're always, should be towards the bubble-ish, maybe right side of the bubble in terms of program rank. It hasn't worked out too well. The coach who I think is the hottest in the country is Wes Miller at Cincinnati. Like we said, you lose the crosstown shootout. They lose the game at home against Eastern Michigan, a team that had high expectations last season, didn't perform. A team that had high expectations this season, and now they're projected 4th to last in the Big 12, 76th at KenPom. Also projected to go 6-12 in the Big 12. It's just not working. We'll see what they can do in the Big 12. They still have talent. He has a chance to save his job and maybe the best conference in college basketball, but his seat is very hot. Then let's end on a positive note. Hubert Davis has definitely cooled down just because he's having a good season. However, I'm not going to say he's not on the hot seat, because once you get on the hot seat, it's very hard to get off of. Brad Brownell would argue that, but it is hard to get off the hot seat. But North Carolina looks really good this year. They're 8-1, have wins over Kentucky, Georgetown, Kansas. Their only loss coming to Michigan State. They look like a really good team. Their front court's awesome. So I would expect this team to be a top 4, top 5 seed come March Madness. So I think his seed is going to be cool for the time being, and we'll see how it goes next year on this kind of just up and down trajectory that Hubert Davis has been on. All right, to close out the show, let's talk about the games to know for this upcoming week. As we mentioned, it's a pretty slow week. So this is Tuesday. This is not Monday. We're going to record this podcast on Monday. We're recording it right now on Monday, and it's going to release on Tuesday because there's nothing on Monday night. On Tuesday at 6:30, these are old rankings, by the way, just so you know that these apps take forever. This is courtesy of CBS Sports app. 6:30 FS1, Villanova at number 13, Michigan. Michigan favored by 15 in this match. That is a lot of points, it seems, but Michigan has just blown out everyone. This game is a true home game for Michigan. So 15 points via KenPom, that is a lot, but this team's been absolutely awesome. Hard to bet because what do you do? Clemson versus BYU. This is a neutral site game. This game will be played at Madison Square Garden. BYU is favored by 5 in this matchup. Should be a fun one. AJ DeBanza versus the Clemson scheme. We'll see about that one. 7:30 on Peacock. Number 14 Illinois at Ohio State. This is a fun one. Two teams that can really score the ball. Illinois is favored by 2 on the road. This game will be played in Columbus. True home game. 8:30 on FS1. Penn State travels to Indiana, where Indiana is favored by 12 in this one. I know Penn State, we talked about them on the last podcast, off to a good start. They're 94th at Ken Palm. I think this team's overrated. I know they are, what are they? They're 8-1 to start the season. They're barely a top 100 team. I expect them to get beat badly against this Indiana team, but hey, if they perform well, maybe this team's a little underrated, but I'm going to take Indiana to win by double digits. 12 is a lot, but say they win by double digits. The game of the night, 9 o'clock on ESPN. Florida visits UConn. This game will also be played at Madison Square Garden. So a little bit of what is this? Is this the Jimmy V Classic? It might be the Jimmy V Classic. I feel like that's something I should know. I believe it is the Jimmy V Classic. UConn favored by 3. You know it's going to be heavy. In fact, the line actually did come out. It's 4.5. UConn is favored by the FanDuel line. UConn's going to have the majority of fans being at Madison Square Garden. The UConn front court, will Terrace Reed be able to play? I hope so, because I want to see him fully healthy. Keep an eye on Braylon Mullins in this one. He is back. I expect UConn to win the game, but Florida is in desperate need of a win, so keep that factored in. Then at 9 o'clock on ESPN2, USC goes to San Diego. Eric Musselman used to coach at San Diego, so kind of just a fun one to keep an eye on there. On Wednesday, nothing too spectacular. Liberty plays NC State. This game will be played at NC State. NC State is favored by, let me see here, 10 in this matchup. Liberty could be a really highly thought of 12 seed, 13 seed come March Madness season. NC State looking to pick up some wins to get back in the tournament conversation. Then at 7 o'clock, Minnesota travels to Purdue, who is now number 6 in the country. Minnesota 1-0 to start conference play. However, I think Purdue's going to beat up on them. They're favored by 19 via Ken Palm, and Purdue coming off a loss. I think this is a rebound game and just a men versus boys game. 7 o'clock ESPN Plus, New Mexico versus VCU. This game will be played at VCU. VCU is favored by 9 in that matchup. Fun mid-major game. And then the game of the day, Wisconsin taking on Nebraska. 9 o'clock on the Big Ten Network at Nebraska. Nebraska favored by 1 in that matchup. That should be a really fun one. Could be, a big seed in the NCAA tournament game for both of these squads. On Thursday, the only game to know, a rivalry game, Iowa and Ben McCollum taking on what are they now? 5 Iowa State, number 4 Iowa State. Iowa State is favored in this game by 12, which is a lot against a Ben McCollum team. However, we saw what Iowa did when they played up against Michigan State. We'll see if that's the same case against Iowa State. I expect this to be a low-scoring game. I think both teams, I know Iowa State can really score it. I just think Iowa's going to really try and control the tempo. It's 144 over-under at Ken Palm right now. I would expect it to be a little lower than that. I might end up on the under on this game. And then finally on Friday at 8 o'clock on Fox, Texas and UConn. Texas off to a really disappointing start. This game will be played at UConn, a home game. UConn's favored by 14 in this one over this Texas team who has been struggling. So we'll see how UConn does against Florida, which might lean a little bit on the decision. If they lose against Florida, they'll be hungry, especially at home against this Texas team. So wait and see. Texas 55th at Ken Palm right now, by the way, not off to a very good start. However, give Sean Miller some time. This is not his guys, quite frankly. This is Rodney Terry's guys. So give him a year or two. All right, that'll do it for the show today. Kept it under 40 minutes. Good for us. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We were kind of all over the place, I know, talking about some coaches, talking mostly about rankings, though, and some of the results. But a little bit of a slow week, so we probably won't talk to you again until either Friday. We might go before the UConn game, or we'll talk after Friday, probably before Friday, honestly. But so be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, turn on the post notifications so you stay up to date on the college basketball world, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science with 2 S's. We've been very active on there. Be sure to go check that out. Everyone enjoy the rest of the week. Let me know your thoughts on some of the rankings. Be sure to check out our last video on that AP poll stat. Kind of a fun one, just a short 3-minute video. So go check that out. Enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy ball. Talk to you soon.